evening Sutta study class. And this evening, the Sutta we're going over is it's again in the Anguttara Nikaya, the book of eights, and it's number 63.3. I think you would have gotten the attachment I sent out. And the title of it is In Brief. So this is many suttas begin. A monk comes to the Buddha and asks him to give a teaching in brief. Sometimes, the Buddha would give a very elaborate, long discourse with the details of certain topic, and in other times he would give a teaching in brief, and that would depend on maybe the amount of time they had, or just on the disposition of the people who he was talking with. Now, this particular monk, the Buddha had known this particular monk as being kind of a person who wanted the Buddha always to give teachings, but then didn't really put those teachings into practice. And so this particular monk is again coming to the Buddha, and he said, "Bhante, it would be good if the Buddha would teach me the Dhamma in brief. And having heard the Dhamma in brief from the Buddha, I would then dwell alone, resolute, and strive in my meditation practice." And then the Buddha gives him this reply, again knowing that this monk, the Buddha probably had given this monk several teachings in brief or even in detail, but then either by knowing this monk or seeing him or other monks telling him about him, he knew this monk really wasn't practicing the way he said he was going to go out and practice, live alone and practice, really strive in developing the practice, but then actually doesn't. So this is the Buddha's reply to him. He said, "It is in just this way that some hollow men here," referring to this monk, he's basically calling him a hollow man, "make requests of me." It means asking me to teach them the Dhamma. But then when the Dhamma has been explained by me, they think of only following me around and not practicing it. So that's a pretty kind of strong rebuke that the Buddha was giving to this monk. And so this monk then replies to the Buddha, "Bhante, let the Blessed One teach me the Dhamma in brief. Let the Fortunate One teach me the Dhamma in brief. Perhaps I might come to understand the meaning of the Blessed One's statement. Perhaps I might become an heir of the Blessed One's statement." So in spite of the Buddha kind of rebuking him like that, he still is kind of beseeching the Buddha to give him a Dhamma teaching in brief. And so then the Buddha says, "In that case, monk, you should train yourself like this. My mind will be firm and well settled internally. Arisen bad, unwholesome states will not obsess my mind. Thus you should train yourself." So this was the Buddha's teaching in brief to this monk. That you must train yourself that my mind will be firm and settled internally, and bad, unwholesome states will not obsess my mind. So again, that's that's a teaching in brief, because if you just told a person, your mind should be firm and settled internally, and bad, unwholesome states don't arise and obsess your mind, they have to know how to do that. So, that's a teaching in brief. Now, if he was to give the teaching in detail, then he would say, okay, you practice anapanasati, for example, and you practice the right efforts, and you become mindful of the 5 hindrances, and you apply the right efforts to suppress the hindrances, and like that, and by doing that, gradually your mind will become settled internally. And by developing your mindfulness and applying the right efforts, then these bad, unwholesome states won't invade your mind. So that would be the teaching in detail, but in this instance, he didn't. He simply just stated, you should train yourself, my mind will become settled internally, and bad, unwholesome states won't obsess my mind. But then the Buddha goes on further to explain how one should then attain the 4 jhanas on the Brahma Viharas. So anyway, I'm just going to, in case you couldn't read the sutta before, I'm going to then read the further explanation that the Buddha was telling this monk. When your mind is firm and well settled internally, and arisen bad, unwholesome states do not obsess your mind, then you should train yourself thus. I will develop and cultivate the liberation of the mind by loving kindness. So basically, he's telling them to practice the metta, liberation of the mind through metta. I will develop and cultivate the liberation of the mind by loving kindness. Make it a vehicle, make it a basis, carry it out, consolidate it, and properly undertake it. Thus, you should train yourself. So basically, he's telling this monk, you should take, metta, the practice of loving kindness, as your meditation subject, and you should develop it by whatever instructions that somebody had given them, and develop that to at least the state of access concentration, or using that to settle the mind internally. That's not even attaining the jhana yet, but this statement of I will cultivate the liberation by mind of metta, make it a vehicle and basis, carry it out, consolidate it, and properly undertake it. That means, you just don't practice metta once or twice and then be able to, overcome, the mind or develop to the point of a jhana, that you have to practice, probably practicing it hundreds and hundreds of times, and of course, depending on each person. But anyway, he's basically telling him to use that to suppress the hindrances. Having already suppressed the hindrances, before, like say, reaching at least the state of access concentration, suppressing the 5 hindrances, at least to a large degree. And then you should, he says, when this concentration has been developed and cultivated by you in this way, you should develop this concentration with thought and examination. And so this statement, you should develop it with thought and examination, that is the initial and applied thought. So that means the first jhana, because initial and applied thought are the two factors, two of the 5 jhana factors of the first jhana. So by cultivating this concentration with thought and examination, that means to the point of the first jhana. So you should attain using metta, you should attain the first jhana. And that means you're using thought and examination. So you're repeating phrases and you're cultivating this idea of, may all beings be well and happy, free from suffering, and then, trying to radiate that out in the 4 directions and so on. And then he goes on to say you should develop it without thought, but with examination only. So this is referring to the 5-factored, 5 jhana thing. I'm not going to, it's too complicated. There's 4 and 5 different explanations of jhana. There's 4 jhanas that normally we hear about, but according to Abhidhamma, there's a 5th jhana. I mean, I'm not going to explain it, it's too complicated, but where, well, okay, I'll briefly try to explain it. In the traditional attainment of the first jhana, it has applied and sustained thought, piti, sukha, and ekagata. And then in the second jhana, you eliminate applied and sustained thought. But in the 5 jhana system, that is according to Abhidhamma, applied and sustained thought are eliminated in 2 stages. So first you eliminate applied thought, and the second of the 5 jhanas is with examination, with sustained thought, and piti, sukha, and ekagata. In other words, again, it's complicated. So, don't confuse yourself. Try not to get too confused. Let's just keep it at you eliminate applied and sustained thought at the same time to keep it simple. So anyway, so he's advocating that then you attain the second jhana by eliminating the thought. And then you develop it without thought and examination. You should develop it with rapture. That means you're attaining the second jhana with rapture. You should develop it without rapture. That means you're attaining the 3rd jhana, where rapture disappears. And you should develop it and accompany it by comfort. And you should develop it accompanied by equanimity. So basically, he's telling the monk that once you've weakened the 5 hindrances to the state of probably, let's say, access concentration, then you develop it to the 1st jhana level, then the 2nd jhana level, the 3rd jhana level, and then the 4th jhana, where it has just the equanimity, which already we've talked about quite a lot in previous talks. So he's telling this monk that's how he should develop his meditation, using metta as the first meditation subject. And then he says, when this concentration has been developed in this way, you should then go on to the practice of compassion. So then, having attained the 4th jhana in metta, then you turn your attention and develop the topic or reflection on compassion or karuna. And then he repeats the same thing, that you develop this compassion with the thought and examination. Then without thought and examination, with rapture, and then without rapture, just with the sukha, and then attaining the fourth jhana of just in the subject of compassion. And then he goes on to, after you've developed the fourth jhana level with the compassion is the topic, you go on to the sympathetic joy. And then after developing the sympathetic joy or mudita through the four jhanas, then you go on to equanimity. So equanimity, of course, is one of the Brahma Viharas, is the fourth of the Brahma Viharas. So you develop the Brahma Vihara of equanimity to the first jhana, second jhana, third jhana, and then the fourth jhana, which is equanimity. So you're attaining equanimity of equanimity. So you're using the Brahma Vihara, contemplating equanimity and attaining equanimity, which is the jhana factor, to the jhana of equanimity, to the topic of equanimity. So, so therefore he's advising this monk to use each of the Brahma Viharas and to attain, but in that order, not jumping from one and saying, oh, practice equanimity first. No, he explains the Brahma Viharas in that order because that's the natural order or systematic order that they should be developed. Because metta is the easiest one to develop. You can't have compassion if you don't have metta. And then altruistic joy, you can't have altruistic joy unless you have metta and compassion, because that's just the nature of these mental states. I mean, it's the natural progression. And then you can't have equanimity without having first gone through and developed those states of metta, karuna, and mudita. And then you let go of even the attachment to that and become equanimous to even those positive mental states. So, but then the Buddha didn't finish with that. That's how he's advising this monk. And again, he's advising this monk in this way because he may know that for this particular monk, this is what that monk needs to practice, where he may not have given this exact kind of teaching to other monks, because he, as we know from many suttas, he teaches people in different ways according to their temperaments. But, okay, so after having developed the four jhanas on each of the Brahma Viharas, then he says, when this concentration has been developed and cultivated by you in this way, meaning the fourth jhana of the equanimity, Brahma Vihara of equanimity, you should then develop, you should train yourself thus. I will dwell contemplating the body and the body, ardent, clearly comprehending, mindful, having removed longing and dejection in regard to the world. Thus you should train yourself. So basically, the Buddha is having him switch now from developing the four Brahma Viharas to mindfulness of the body. And as we'll see, actually mindfulness of the four foundations of mindfulness. So he's advising the monk to develop the concentration and purifying the mind of, the negative states of, anger, resentment, ill will, jealousy, and attachments to things by developing the Brahma Viharas. Because the Brahma Vihara of metta is an antidote for anger and ill will, especially ill will towards others, and resentment. And then compassion is to purify the mind of cruelty, cruelty to others. And then the sympathetic joy is developing that, overcoming jealousy and other types of things toward others. And then finally, the Brahma Vihara of the equanimity is not to take sides with others and, developing that even-mindedness. And then switching that to mindfulness of the body. And then he has them practice mindfulness of the body through the first, second, third, up to the fourth jhana too. So I'm just going to continue to read this because this is, you don't find this kind of explanation in a lot of other suttas. So the Buddha is explaining this in a way that, you may have not have read in other places, like in the Satipatthana Sutta itself. It doesn't really explain it like he's doing here. So it says, after having developed the contemplation of the body in the body, that means also the breath body within the larger body, which the mindfulness of the body sutta, how it's developed. This concentration should be developed with thought and examination. That means to attain the first jhana is mindfulness of the body with the, to that extent. And then you should develop it to the second jhana. That means without thought and examination. And then you should develop it to the third jhana without the rapture. And then you should develop it to the fourth jhana with the equanimity. So even mindfulness of the body, the first foundation of mindfulness, the Buddha is having him develop. And you can't, a lot of people think, oh, you can't attain jhana by practicing mindfulness of the body. But that's not true. By reading this, the Buddha is saying, yes, you've got to attain mindfulness of the body in the fourth jhana. And this is what is following the 7 factors of enlightenment, because in the scheme of 7 factors of enlightenment, those are attained, the jhanas are attained through the practice of mindfulness. Anyway, so he's saying, advising the monk to practice mindfulness of the body until you develop the fourth, up to the fourth jhana. And then when this concentration has developed by you, you should go on to the second foundation of mindfulness. I will draw contemplating feelings in feelings. And you should develop this to the first jhana, second jhana, third jhana, fourth jhana level. And then he goes on to the third foundation of mindfulness. You should dwell contemplating the mind in the mind through all those four jhana levels too. And then he goes on to the fourth foundation of mindfulness, contemplation of the mental phenomena, which includes contemplating 5 aggregates, the sixfold sense base, the 7 factors of enlightenment, and the 4 noble truths that accumulate in entering the stream or higher. So he's telling him to, each of those 4 foundations of mindfulness, to develop each of those to the 4th jhana level of concentration. So a lot of people think, oh, you can't practice mindfulness, in jhana. Well, this contradicts that. This is a no, you do. While in the jhana, you can still contemplate. So this is a point of controversy amongst certain types of meditation teachers who might only read one thing, and until you've read enough sutras, you can see how the Buddha taught in so many different ways. But if you only read one or two sutras and just one kind of one-sided thing, then you'll say, oh, you have to do it only this way. But the Buddha is showing, no, there's different ways of developing it. So anyway, so then after having then gone through all of that, then the Buddha says, when monk, this concentration, again referring to the 4 foundations of mindfulness, has been developed and well developed by you in this way up to the point of attaining the jhanic levels of concentration in those. Wherever you walk, you'll be at ease. Wherever you stand, you will stand at ease. Wherever you sit, you will sit at ease. Wherever you lie down, you will lie down at ease. So that was the end of the Buddha's instructions to this particular monk. And then it says, having received this exhortation, this teaching from the Buddha, and remember, this monk remembered that the Buddha black-hearted him or was scolding him at the beginning for being this hollow person who just wants the Buddha to teach them but then doesn't practice. So this monk then determined, I'm not going to do that again. I'm going to go out and be worthy of the Buddha's time in teaching me, right? So it says, having received such an exhortation from the Buddha, that monk rose from his seat, paid homage to the Blessed One, circumambulated him, keeping to the right, and then went out to find a place to meditate. And then it says, dwelling alone, withdrawn, that means, from others, heedful, ardent, and resolute. In no long time, that monk realized for himself, with direct knowledge in this very life, that unsurpassed consummation of the spiritual life, for the sake of which people rightly go forth from the homeless life into homelessness, or become bhikkhus. And having entered upon it, he dwelled in it, and he directly knew, destroyed his future rebirth. The spiritual life has been lived. What had to be done has been done. There's no more coming back to any state of being. And that monk became one of the arahants. So, that monk basically attained arahantship from following these directions that the Buddha had given him. Now the Buddha might have, he might have heard talks about the Buddha, about meditation many times, but he didn't take it seriously. But at this time, he thought, if the Buddha gives me a teaching now and I don't really go out and attain enlightenment, he probably won't even bother giving me any teaching anymore in the future. So, that's why the Buddha sometimes he used what could be considered, harsh language. He called this person a hollow man, at the beginning of the sutras. So I'm a hollow man here. That means referring to this monk. He was talking directly to this monk, listen to my teachings, but then, don't. So this monk took it to heart. But this was the instruction. So he had that person first practice the Brahma Viharas to attain jhanic level concentration, and then not stopping with that, because there was a question just last week about, attaining, if you could attain enlightenment by practicing just the Brahma Viharas. But the Buddha didn't stop with Brahma Viharas. He had them use that concentration then to develop the 4 foundations of mindfulness. which is basically developing the 7 factors of enlightenment, which attains the jhana with each of those, through the practice of mindfulness, he's attaining the stages of jhana. And when you reach the 4th level concentration, practicing, the 4 foundations of mindfulness, so that's when the entering the stream or even arahantship, in this case, that monk attained arahantship. Doesn't say maybe he didn't reach it all in one fell swoop, but could have attained it fairly quickly anyway, it says. So that is that sutta teaching in brief. So you can see that, and again, as I mentioned, as far as I know, this is the only sutta. That's why I chose the sutta, actually, because I try to pick some suttas which are not the common, it's not the biggies, right? So in a lot of the kind of books people read, just, they might read about just Satipatthana Sutta or the, Anatta Lakkhana Sutta, the biggies. But that's why going through the whole Tripitaka, you find gems like this that explain, different teachings on this. That, you can attain the 4 jhanas through practicing mindfulness of the body, mindfulness of feelings, mindfulness of the mind, and the mindfulness of the mental objects also. And you practice them while in the jhanas, not coming out of the jhana and then thinking about it and so on. It says you should practice it with thought and examination. That means while in the first jhana, and then while without thought and examination, you're contemplating the feelings and mental states in each of those successive jhanas, 3rd, 4th jhana. So, having said that much, let's see if there's any questions that have come up in the chat room. Okay, this first question. Could you explain a bit more about the meaning of Dhammas in Satipatthana? Now, okay, in the Satipatthana Sutta, the 4 foundations of mindfulness. So the 4th foundation of mindfulness is called Dhamma Nupassana, means reflection on Dhamma. Now, the English translation, a lot of people translate the Dhammanupassana as contemplation of mental objects. And that's why I consider that a little misleading or confusing. It's contemplating the Dhamma. And if you read that 4th foundation of mindfulness, the Dhamma that he's referring to are the 5 aggregates. First of all, the 5 hindrances. The second is the 5 aggregates. The third is the 6 sense folds, the 6-fold sense sphere. That means contemplating the external and internal sense bases and the objects. And then contemplating the mental states, or excuse me, the contemplating the 6-fold sense sphere, and then the 7 factors of enlightenment, and the Four Noble Truths. So those are the Dhamma. That's the Dhamma in Satipatthana. Because those are the main groups of Dhamma that the Buddha taught about. The 5 hindrances. You can't go any deeper in meditation without overcoming the 5 hindrances. You have to contemplate them, know how they arise, how they're overcome, and how they're kept from coming again in the future. And then the 5 aggregates. You have to understand the 5 aggregates, how they arise and the attachment to them and so on. And then you have to contemplate the 6 senses and the internal bases and the objects and the fetters. You have to contemplate the fetters that arise based on the objects of the senses. And these are the essence of the actual practice of the Dhamma, because that is what is helping you to purify the mind and to develop insight. And then and while you're doing that, then you're developing the 7 factors of enlightenment. And then the Four Noble Truths. So all these are the main groups of Dhamma. So basically, the Dhamma in Satipatthana means those groups: 5 hindrances, 5 aggregates, 6-fold sense sphere, factors of enlightenment in the Four Noble Truths. If I missed one, somebody can correct me. So that's the Dhamma. Okay, this other question says, each of the 4 Brahma Viharas should be developed with the 4 jhanas, and each of the 4 foundations of mindfulness should be developed with the 4 jhanas. These are alternative ways to reach Nibbana. Is that correct? Well, they're the main ways to reach. What do you mean by alternative? Is there any other way? In the 4 foundations of mindfulness, the Buddha himself said, this is the direct way for attaining Nibbana, the 4 foundations of mindfulness. But it means developing them to the level of, attaining the jhanas with those as the object of concentration, as this sutta pointed out. What do you want some alternative way for? That's the direct way. Now, attaining the Brahma Viharas, it might be easier. May be easier for people to develop concentration and overcome the hindrances through practicing Brahma Viharas, especially people that have a lot of anger and resentment in them, a lot of jealousy and a lot of lust and so on. Then practicing the Brahma Viharas may be a good way for them to attain concentration. But you don't stop at that. You use that. You don't attain enlightenment through practicing only the Brahma Viharas, but you use that purification of the mind to then develop the 4 foundations of mindfulness. And that's the way that the Buddha taught in much of the time. And of course, people will say, well, he taught, attaining the jhanas. But any way you look at it, all those jhanas are attained either with practicing anapanasati, the 4 foundations of mindfulness, or the Brahma Viharas. I don't know what other alternative way you want. And some people say, what about developing the red kasina, the white kasina, the light kasina? This is all Abhidhamma stuff. It may be mentioned in the suttas, but you can't even practice those arupa jhanas without attaining up to the 4th jhana anyway. So, everybody's looking for different ways, just do it the way the Buddha taught. This is the direct way, the 4 foundations of mindfulness. But you have to develop it to the point of jhana. Not attaining jhana first, you can do that and come back and practice, such as we mentioned here. Okay, you practice the Brahma Viharas, attain the fourth jhana on that, then you come back using that concentration. You then can probably very quickly go through the four foundations of mindfulness and attain enlightenment through that way. Okay, this next one. Yeah, sometimes using, when you read different translations and even different, of sutras, and especially if you get in the Abhidhamma, that's why a lot of people don't advise getting into the Abhidhamma, because it confuses people with this five jhana interpretation of the jhanas. But you never read about 5 jhanas in the suttas. It's only the four jhanas. Abhidhamma is what creates a lot of different things, and I don't advise going that way because it's too complicated. Makes things too complicated. But anyway. So there, some people could practice without practicing the Brahma Viharas. A person could just using Anapanasati and using going through the able to overcome the hindrances, just using the right efforts, they could attain enlightenment without practicing Brahma Viharas. But other people may not be able to, if their mind is too much full of hindrances, and then practicing the Brahma Viharas can be helpful for developing concentration in that way first. But you don't stop with the Brahma Viharas. You then, following the advice of the sutta, you then use that concentration to develop the 4 foundations of mindfulness, because it's developing anatta, it's understanding anatta and overcoming seeing anicca, dukkha, and anatta is what is the hallmark of attaining the liberation. Okay, so is that all the chats? Anybody have any last questions you might want to ask by just turning on your like what? What?
They can unmute.
Yeah, if anybody wants to ask a question and unmute, you can do that.
When you're cultivating this.
So Prashant has a question.
Brahma Viharas, it's not like jhanic concentration, but it's like but Brahma Viharas, I always thought, like as you mentioned, metta is like a mental suggestion, but compassion is like you act out, you feel the suffering of others and you try to help other person.
Yeah, but that's in the active phase, but there's also a way that you can cultivate that, in the meditation. So the Brahma Viharas are, yes, you practice them in your daily life. So that, one of your colleagues at work said he got a promotion, and then you feel joy and happy about that. But you could also then go back and sitting in your meditation in the evening, if you want to use that sympathetic joy, you could develop that as a meditation subject. In the same way with Satipatthana Sutta, you can't just sit down and practice Satipatthana Sutta and meditate. You've got to practice that out when you're standing, walking, in all the 4 postures. You have to be contemplating too. You can't just expect to contemplate only in meditation developing, but you've got to also know how to use that in the daily life, so that, because that's where you create most of your karma, is out there in your interactions, out on the street and so on, where the sitting in meditation is a training for, leading the rest of your life.
So now you're thinking and contemplating about that particular experience. So
That's a thought and examination.
that's a thought and examination.
So you can gain the first jhana to that level, but then once that understanding is fixed in your mind, you don't have to think about it anymore. The mind then kind of conforms to that vibration, because it's a vibration of consciousness that's attained, that has overcome the resentment and ill will, let's say, through the metta practice. And it's just experiencing that piti and the sukha that comes from that mind that's been freed temporarily from the ill will and so on. So it's because of that you're using, the initial thinking about it to suppress those hindrances, and then you're sitting in that state, and then experiencing going through the subtler levels of the second, third, up to the fourth jhana. Okay, friends, I think we'll go ahead and stop with that, and then take a short break, and then we'll go on and then do our few yoga stretches, and then have our meditation. Okay? We'll come back in a few minutes. Okay, friends, so we'll go ahead and start the yoga now. So just stand straight. Just gently close your eyes. Just feel your feet pressing the ground. Then begin some deep, slow breathing. After breathing in, hold the air in your lungs 2 or 3 seconds. And slowly let out the breath. We combine these movements with that same deep, slow breathing. So you can, if you haven't seen these before, you can open your eyes and sort of watch as I lead you through these movements. So on the in-breath, raise the arms over the head, interlock the fingers, turn the palms up, straighten the arms, stretch your head back to look at the back of your hands, arch your back a little bit. On the out-breath, turn the hands down and touch the top of the head. Again, in-breath, palms up, straighten the arms, stretch the head back, bend back a little. Out-breath, touch the head. And third time, hold that upward stretch longer, arch back. Release the fingers. On the out-breath, arms back to the sides. Relax, gently close the eyes. Just feel the sensations in your hands and fingers, subtle pulsations. Feel where the clothing touches the body on different places. And just mentally remind yourself of standing. It's the present moment of the body. Just letting go of your thoughts, just keeping the attention focused in and on the body, feeling the sensations. Okay, on the next in-breath, push up on the toes and raise the arms over the head in this way, facing the hands toward each other and stretch up. Out breath, come back down, arms to the side, heels to the floor. Use the breathing to help lift and lower the body. In breath, up. Out. Once more, in. Stretch. Out. Just relax. Just keep feeling the body. Just feel the sensations of the clothing touching the skin, the subtle pulsations, prickling sensations, just any other body sensation, any aches or pain. Just remember standing. Okay, next we'll do the knee bending. On the in-breath, again, lift up on the toes, lift the arms up front for balance. On the out-breath, bend the knees and lower down, balancing on the balls of the feet. Come down as far as you can. And a deep in-breath to push up. All the way up on the toes. Out-breath. In. Out. Out-breath. Now spread the feet apart, at least 3 feet, wider the better. And hold the hands at the chest. On the in-breath, hands over the head. Out-breath, hands to the chest, bend the knees, lower down. Feel the stretch in the hips and knees. In-breath, up. Out-breath. In. Out. The out breath, arms back to the sides. Just feel each foot pressing the floor. Now we'll do forward and backward bending. The hands touch the front of the legs. Breathe in. The out breath, bend forward. Let the hands come to the knees the first time. Keep your head up. Try to flatten the spine to get the hump out of the spine. Legs straight, arms straight. In breath, lift up. And hands under the buttocks for support. Let the head go back. The out breath, gently bend backwards, not too far the first time. Look up at the ceiling. In breath, carefully lift up. On the out breath, again, bend forward. Let the hands come down below the knees, about halfway. Still keep the head up. Feel the stretch in the back of the leg. In breath, lift up. And again, the back bend, hands under the buttocks. Out breath. In. Out. So let the hands come down as far as you can toward the feet, and then hold that position longer. Feel the stretch in the back of the legs. Yeah. On the in breath, lift up. And once more, the back bend, out breath. In breath up. Out breaths, relax. Feel the whole body vibrating, pulsating. Feel each foot pressing the floor. The arms and hands, the sides, head on top. Just this body exactly as it is. Now bring the legs and feet back closer together. One last exercise, the head turning on an in-breath. Turn your head to the right. Try to look over your right shoulder. Turn your eyes to the right. Look at something behind you. On the out breath, turning the head 180 degrees back to the left, to look over the left shoulder. In breath back to the right. Out breath left. In breath right. Let the head stop in the center, feel the whole body vibrating, pulsating, activated life force. Okay, we'll go ahead and come back to the seat for meditation. I'm going to turn my video off as normal. Can you put up that? So just try to sit straight, align the head and spinal column in a straight line. Sort of find the center of gravity of the head and the spine over the hips. Find that sort of tipping point where the body could either tip forwards or backwards. Keep the chin level to the floor. And bring your attention down to feel where the weight of the body and the buttocks press the seat. Feel that solid contact of the buttocks to the seat. Try to feel the right and the left buttock, feel some sensation. All that weight of the body pressing the flesh of the buttocks on the seat, producing lots of sensations. And just mentally remember sitting, present moment of sitting. And let the awareness, move the awareness down your legs toward the knees, and going over the knee, down into the lower leg. Feel where the clothing touches the skin of the leg as you're moving your attention downwards. Then feeling your feet. Just focus your attention on the feet. You can do one foot at a time or both together. Just try to feel the heels and the toes. It's like looking through a magnifying glass or a microscope. Try to feel the subtle sensations. Subtle pulsations where the clothing touches the skin of the feet. Or where the toes touch together. This present moment awareness. And just sort of feel that whole bottom part of the body, the buttocks, the knees, the feet, just pressing the floor. And just remember sitting. Now feel the hands and the fingers touching, where they touch together, where they rest on your legs. Or to feel the subtle pulsations or other sensations on your hands and fingers, where the fingers touch each other. And now feel the weight of the arms hanging from the shoulders. Relax the shoulders. Feel where the clothing touches the skin of the shoulders, upper arms, or even the chest. This present moment, sensations, awareness. Just let the thoughts come and go in the back of the mind while keeping the attention focused on the pure physical sensations. And now move the attention up to feel your face. Just feel or imagine the skin stretched over the front of the skull. kind of stretched feeling on the forehead, the chin, the cheeks, or the nose. So as if you were looking at the face from the inside. And feel your lips touching together. The upper lip touches the lower lip. Feel any sensation of sort of dryness or moistness in the lip. And feel the tongue laying in the mouth, where the tongue touches any teeth. Now feel the eyes resting in the sockets and the eyelids stretched over the eyeball. You might notice some light or color or even a mental image or just darkness. You might feel some subtle eye movements, like the blood pulsing in the capillaries of the eyes. Just relax the eyes. Now from that point behind the eyes, let the awareness kind of just expand a little bit to try to feel the outline of the whole body. Just in a general sense, kind of just feel the buttocks, feet pressing the floor underneath. Feel the hands touching where the arms hanging at the side. The head balanced on top. Feeling the clothing touching the skin on different places. You should be able to just kind of feel that outline of the body in the mind's eye. Sitting, sitting, sitting. Then begin some deep, slow breathing to oxygenate the blood. Practice the mindfulness of the breathing. Just try to take some deeper breaths to feel that gradual expansion of the abdomen, rib cage, and upper chest. And hold the air in the lungs for 2 or 3 seconds. Feel the subtle oxygenation process. And feel the relaxing contractions of the out breath. Feeling the last bit of air go out of the lungs. And then the next in-breath. Just try to take several deep, slow breaths like that, cultivating this basic mindfulness. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, sitting here and now. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, sitting here and now. Breathing in, feeling the whole body. Breathing out, feeling the whole body. So now we'll try to count the breaths from 1 to 10, develop a better concentration. Try to continue to take some slightly deeper breaths in order to feel it, to stay focused. So with the next expanding in breath, mentally count 1. Feel the brief pause. With the contracting out breath, count 1. Next in breath, 2. The out breath, 2. In breath, 3. Out breath, 3. In breath, 4. Out breath, 4. In breath, 5. Out breath, 5. In breath, 6. Out breath, 6. In breath, 7. Out breath, 7. In breath, 8. Out breath, 8. In breath, 9. Out breath 9. In breath 10. Out breath 10. Now discontinue the counting. Discontinue any deeper or controlled breathing. Just let the breathing return to its shorter, uncontrolled rhythms, but continue to feel it. Keep the attention focused in the center of the body to feel the subtler movements, expanding and contracting. Let's make that the main focus of knowing when the breath is coming in and knowing when the breath is going out. You know it by feeling it. Or feel where the clothing touches the skin, rubs the skin of the stomach, the rib cage, or chest with each breath. And try to notice the 4 phases of each breath. The in-breath and the pause. The out-breath and the pause. You make these mental notes to yourself to stay focused. In sitting, out, sitting. So in the brief pauses between the in and out breaths, feel the sitting body. This breathing is going on within this larger sitting body. It's contemplating the body in the body, the breathing body within the larger sitting body. It means just feeling it. The breathing is going on there in the center, but around it you can also notice other sensations on your arms and hands. It's the beginning of mindfulness of the body. Or if it helps you to concentrate, you could also just feel the air as it's moving through the nostrils and into the lungs. And the out breath, contraction of the chest and the air going out of the nostrils. Whatever helps you to stay concentrated in the body. Just feeling the pure physical sensations. in sitting, out, out, sitting, breath by breath, moment by moment, developing mindfulness and concentration. Concentration is keeping the attention focused in the breathing body. Mindfulness is feeling the different sensations coming and going. Also being alert for any thoughts trying to steal your attention away. Letting go of the thought to help you stay concentrated in the body. So just developing the understanding that really this body is comprised of billions of cells, atoms, which are producing all these different sensations. Any sounds distract the attention. Be aware it's just hearing. Keep the attention grounded in the body. Just in sitting. Out, sitting. Just try to notice how each breath is different. Sometimes longer, sometimes shorter. Sometimes you feel it more in the abdomen, sometimes you feel it in the chest. It's always changing. That's part of the development of wisdom, the wisdom of impermanence. This body is a constantly changing process, changing sensations. Even our thoughts are constantly changing, coming and going. The mind gets caught up in thinking, recognize it as thinking, gently letting go of the thoughts. Take a deep breath, bring the mind back into the body. When any unpleasant or painful feelings arise, be aware of them as they try to pull your attention. Just mindfully be aware of them as they build up or change or diminish. All those pains are also just impermanent, always changing. They're just part of the body process. And in this body, there are all these pleasant sensations, or painful sensations, or neutral sensations. It's coming and going. And all these feelings, pleasant, painful, neutral feelings, just occurring within this physical body. And even while the feelings, the body process is going on, and the feelings, even our mental states are changing, various types of thoughts, ideas. All these sensations in the body are constantly changing. Pleasant, neutral, or unpleasant sensations are always changing. Our thoughts are always changing. It's the flow of impermanence. Concentration is keeping the attention focused in the breathing body, but the mindfulness is alert to the feelings, the sensations, the feelings, and the mental state. A concentrated mind sees reality as it is. It means the mind centered in the breathing body sees the flow of impermanent sensations, feelings, mind state, constantly changing. Just contemplating that with applied and sustained attention to attain the first jhana. You feel the subtle, pleasant sensations in the body. It's the arising of piti or rapture. So with each out breath, just allowing the body and mind to relax more and more into the present moment. Just try to get the idea of feeling that you're just sitting in a movie theater, just watching this movie of this body and mind sitting there. The body sitting and breathing, sensations coming and going. Even various thoughts or urges coming and going in the mind. You can even watch those without getting lost into them. Just breathing in, contemplating impermanence. Breathing out, contemplating impermanence. Is observing impermanence. It's moment by moment, breath by breath. what perceptions or thoughts arise in the mind based on that sound vibration. Depending on contact arises feelings and thoughts. Now it's gone. Sabbe sankhara anicchati yada panyaya pasati atanibindati dukkhe esamaggo visuddhiya dukkha pattacca nidukkha bhaya pattacca nibbaya Soka pattacca nisoka hontu sabbe pipanino. All conditioned things, the five aggregates of this body, mind, and world are impermanent. When one sees this with the eye of wisdom, one becomes disenchanted with suffering. This is the path to purity, to freedom. And may the suffering be free from suffering. May the fear struck be free from fear. May the grieving be free from grief. In this way, may all beings live with mindfulness and wisdom. And thus spoke the Buddha. Now again, let's spend the last few minutes of the meditation cultivating thought vibrations of friendliness and best wishes toward ourselves and all other beings. So again, take some deep, slow breaths. And after breathing in, hold the air in the lungs for as long as you comfortably can to try to feel it. Subtle oxygenation of the blood, those pleasant sensations, and on the out breath, feel the relaxing, pleasant sensations of the out breath, the mind resting in the present moment. Start to take several deep, slow breaths like that, sending this metta to your own body and mind, oxygenated blood and those piti vibrations, healing vibrations. It's like the metta to your own body and mind. Just with the idea, may I be well, peaceful, and wise. May I be free from greed, hatred, fear, and ignorance, and other negative thoughts that are the source of suffering. May I have the patience, strength, mindfulness, and wisdom to meet and overcome all difficulties in life. May I be able to continue to deepen my understanding of the Dhamma in practice of meditation to help free the mind from confusion and suffering. May I be well, peaceful, and wise. And try to continue taking some deep, slow breaths. And as you're holding in the breath and on the out breath, imagining that those subtle vibrations of metta sending those sensations out to your parents, family members, friends, colleagues at work, other people that you know. With each out breath, gradually extending those thought vibrations of metta, pure energy, pure love, pure wisdom, outward across the whole earth. With the idea that may all living beings, wherever they might be well, peaceful and wise, free from greed, hatred, fear, and ignorance, free from the pains and sufferings that come about by such unskillful thought, speech, and actions. May all beings have the patience, strength, mindfulness, and wisdom to meet and overcome all difficulties in life. May all beings have the opportunity to hear the teachings of the Dhamma and practice meditation to help free their minds from confusion and suffering. May all beings be able to live peacefully and harmoniously together, understanding the ultimate interconnectedness and interdependence and essential emptiness of all phenomena. May all beings be well, peaceful, and wise. May all beings be well, peaceful, and wise. May all beings be well, peaceful, and wise. Get my photo back. There we go. Now I invite you to join in chanting the word sadhu 3 times. Do the chanting on a long out breath, try to feel the vibrations of that drawn out sound in the body and mind. If you want to place the hands together at the chest, you can do that. Take a deep breath. Sadhu. 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 Place the hands at the edge of the knees and take one more deep breath. the in-breath, stretch the head back, pull the hands against the knees, arch the lower spine backwards. And lift the head up on an in-breath. On the out-breath, press the chin to the top of the chest, stretch the neck vertebrae. You lift the chin up level on the in-breath. Relax on the out-breath. Put a smile on your face. Okay, friends, so I hope you're able to have a peaceful meditation, and I hope, if you watch the inauguration of our new president today, hopefully that there's nice speeches and so on that were given that give a hope to hopefully bring this country back to a more peaceful vibration, get people working together again. So, that just as people around the country are hoping for a new vibration of, political consciousness and more, helpful interactions in the world, and so in the same way in our own minds, cultivate that Dhamma within our own minds, and hopefully that some of that goes out into the outer world also. Okay, friends, so I'm glad you could participate this evening, and we'll see you again. I just wanted to mention, Jonathan, can you hear me? I haven't seen you around in a long time.